Well, I'm Reverend Karen Lewis, and I'm very relaxed because we already had a couple mess-ups, right? So I am just so relaxed. It is my joy to be here to welcome all of you who are here for the very first time, and I know there's several people who are here for the first time, and there's several people who are here and who have been waiting to be able to come back into the sanctuary. And thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time and spending your Sunday morning with us in this activity that we call a lot of different things: Sunday morning celebration, an expression of this community out into the world. We call it love. We call it welcome home. So welcome. Oh, I just discovered that song, and when I heard that Holly would be singing here today, I asked her if she would perform it, if she would learn it and perform it. So that was the first time probably that you sang it, right? And it just really touched my heart. And it goes so well with our annual theme and with the theme that we are stepping in today. So our annual theme is a spiritual hero's journey. And we have heard so much positive feedback, so many people have reached out and said, you know, that really applies to me. I feel like I am on a spiritual journey. And so just by show of hand, I wonder, is there anybody in here in the sanctuary that feels like they are on their spiritual journey? Yes, yes. Wonderful, wonderful. And I think I saw a couple hands out on the other side of the camera as well. And so we're walking out this annual theme that, by the way, is deepened into what the community is asking for. As you might recall, in May, we distribute a survey asking the community members, what is it that you would like to explore? And so the theme was built precisely on all the feedback that came back. And I just mentioned that because here we are in May again. So within the next couple of weeks, you will receive a survey with a request to let us know what you would like to deepen into the next year. So this year, the spiritual hero's journey. You might recall the first 2 months we really focused on this immersion into truth, into the truth of our teaching. What is the science of mind teaching? What is this teaching? And then we went into deepening our faith. Really looking at how can I, as an individual, deepen into the knowingness that there is one power, one presence, and that I am of that. We often say there's a power for good in the universe, and it can use me, and I can use it. It is the reciprocal relationship that we have. Life is not something that happens to us. It comes through us. And that is what we are going to deepen into these next 2 months as we are claiming our wholeness. Claiming our wholeness. Now, I don't know about you, but wholeness is a big, big word for me. It is this quality that says that who I am is whole, is perfect in the sense that there's nothing that needs to be taken away or added for me to be whole. And yet, it takes a realization. It takes a waking up to the fact that we are indeed whole. And so these next 2 months are dedicated to that work. And so today I want to start off and offer 3 different ways that have helped me to engage in this work. And the first one is finding meaning. Finding meaning. And then we're going to look at how can we shift our perspective, perhaps from challenging to better, or from good to great, or from great to amazing. And then I'm going to wrap up to take today's talk by inviting us to let go of pushing against what is that we don't want and consider dancing with it. So that is where we are heading today. So finding meaning. Reverend Dr. Michelle Madrano often said, she used to be the spiritual leader here for 17 and a half years, and she often would say, we are meaning-making machines. I like that. We are meaning-making machines. Now, what does that mean? Well, that means that two kids can grow up in exactly the same family dynamic, and later in life, one is like, oh my God, that was challenging, and the other one was like, that was great. It is the example that two people can go on a vacation, and when they come back, one talks about how wonderful it was, and the other one talks about how challenging it was. Have you ever had that experience? The two people are seemingly in the same experience, and yet they have very different ideas of what just happened. Finding meaning. The story that inspired me is by Mark Napo. He calls it touching water. There's a widower that is having a very hard time. And he goes to see an old, wise woman to talk about his troubles. And the woman clearly can see that he's suffering, and she invites him for a walk. And they walk along the stream. And the man is trembling, and it breaks out of him. He said, what is the point? What is the meaning of life? She invites him to sit down on a large rock right next to the stream and picks up a large branch and touches the water with the branch. And she said, well, the meaning of life really depends on what you assign to it, what it is for you. And the man looked puzzled. So the woman offers him the branch and says, touch the water with the branch. And as he pokes the water with the branch, he is surprised how much he can feel the flowing water through the branch in his hand, and how comforting it really is. And she says, that is what meaning feels like. That we don't touch something, but we can still feel it. And the man grows tender, and he cries. And the woman says, close your eyes, go into your heart, feel your wife who's no longer here. That you can feel her. That is how meaning saves us. And the man cries, and she puts her arm around him, and she says, we don't know how to live or how to die. We only know how to love and how to lose, and how to pick up meaning, branches of meaning on this journey called life. I love that. For what would be the words that I could describe what meaning, the meaning of life is to me that would make sense to another? It is a very, very individual experience, and yet We all have heard and felt this way. I know that Rumi so beautifully describes as going beyond right doing and wrongdoing into that field. Into the field where we know that we are one with the divine, that our wholeness is assured, that there's nothing we need to do to earn it. It is freely given. Breathe into that field, into that space, into that knowingness. Richard Rohr has this beautiful quote. He says, by the second half of our lives, which is very comforting to me, by the second half of our lives, we are meant to see in wholes and no longer just in parts. Yet, we get to the whole by falling down into the messy parts so many times, in fact, that we long for and thirst for the wholeness and the fullness of all things, including ourselves. I promise you, this unified field is the only lasting meaning. This field is the only lasting meaning. And I believe that this is the work of a spiritual community, of this spiritual community. This is the work of the science of mind to help us with this philosophy to take away those things that we have assigned meaning to that no longer serve us. Are we ready to lay them down? Yes. I love being inspired by others, seeing different ways of how did they do it? What can I glean from them? What might I be able to do? To experience that light that I know is at the center of my being, to shine more fully out and uplift the world. There's a little boy, his name is DeWitt. It's hard for my German tongue to say that, but it's DeWitt. DeWitt Jones. He loved the National Geographic, those books with the yellow borders around that would come. When it came in the mail, he would run and get it, and he would be not seen for hours. He would devour the stories in there. He would feel this call to adventure, this call to go out into the world. And after some years, he actually became a photographer for National Geographic. And they sent him out into assignments all over the world, into very, very exciting places, and into some places that he did not find so exciting. But every assignment that he took on, he would ask himself, what is the story that wants to be known here? How can I approach this assignment knowing that there's a great story in it? One of those assignments was just to the north of us in Utah. And he took this wonderful shot that is It is a great shot of the landscape that is in southern Utah. And then he asked himself, what if I would change perspective? What would happen if I look at it from a different angle? And he lowered himself into one of those slot canyons, and this is the picture that he took afterwards. How can we apply this in our lives? Is there a relationship, perhaps with a challenging coworker or some family member, that would benefit from us taking a different perspective? Is there perhaps a conflict in our life or one that we see out in the world that would benefit from us being willing to look at it differently? For we know in this teaching, it is not there and then we see it. But we believe it, and then we see it. He says it in an interesting way. DeWitt Jones says, I recognize that vision controls your perception, and your perception becomes your reality. I believe that is true for each and every one of us. Whatever vision, however we approach anything, it has a tendency to mirror that back to us. The good, the very good, the not so good, and even the ugly. I do believe that whatever life mirrors back to me has something to do what is within me. Some agreement, something perhaps that I am not even aware of. And so where does that leave us? It leaves us with an invitation to dance with that we want to push away. How can we dance with anything that is in our lives that we would rather not have in it? For sure, we want to take a look at, can I find a different meaning? Can I assign a different meaning to it? And can I shift my perspective? The other evening, we watched a movie, The City Slickers. Have you ever seen that movie, The City Slickers, if I can say the title? And what really got my attention in that movie, there's this scene where Billy Crystal, who is, out in the wilderness because he's dissatisfied with his life, so he's herding cattle from New Mexico to Colorado because that's what one does when you're dissatisfied with your life. And so he talks to this older, wise cowboy. And he asks him, what is it that makes you so happy, so satisfied? What have you discovered? And the old cowboy says, it's one thing. It is one thing. You have to devote your life to it, to this one thing. But if you do that, happiness is assured. And Billy Crystal is ready, right? Just tell me what it is and I will do it. And the old cowboy says, it is yours to find out. Because the answer to the question might be very different for Judy than it is for Susan, right? We all have to find out what is the one thing that propels me forward into the field where I know that I am one with the divine. For me, it is loving kindness. It is this idea that whoever I meet, however they show up, I don't know the whole story of them. I only know a little part. I don't know what brought them to where they are now. And so I made a commitment with myself to meet everyone with loving kindness. And I have this reminder on my altar, which is, I don't know if you can see it, it's a little snail house. It is a spiral. And think about the spirals that we see in nature. We see them in weather patterns, right? We see them in fern when it unfurls, and we see it in our very own DNA. At the very center of each of us is a spiral. Hermann Hesse, the German philosopher, says, we are not going in circles, we're going upwards. The path is a spiral, and we have already climbed many steps. Many steps. And so I use spirals in my work to bring me back past right doing, wrong doing, any doing, to the field where not only I can claim my wholeness, but where we can feel that wholeness claims us. As we make it into that field, as we let go of those limiting beliefs, of the idea that there is 150 of us here, and really understand there's only one of us. There's only one. There's one power, one presence, one love, one energy from which all we came. And the invitation is really this. For me, you may take it on, to meet everybody with loving kindness. Everybody. We had a women's retreat yesterday, and we were all invited to devote to a spiritual practice for 1 week. And my practice is that I will not judge anybody for whom I have not prayed already. I prayed a lot last night, just letting you know. So what do we do with all of this? How can we take all of this into our week so that we are reminded that we truly are whole? I want to offer you this wonderful Buddhist prayer. You may allow your eyes to close, or you can just listen, or you can repeat these words quietly in your mind. And we start with us. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be happy. And breathing that in, we turn to those that we have a tendency to judge, that we have a tendency to put outside of our heart, and we offer this prayer. May they be filled with loving kindness. May they be well. May they be peaceful and at ease. May they be happy. And why would we not pray for another who's hurting? And we complete the prayer for our world. May the world be filled with loving kindness. May it be well. May all creatures be peaceful and at ease. May all beings be happy. I'm so grateful we are on this journey together. Thank you. Now I invite our practitioners and our ministers in service to please rise as we come together in prayer in our spiritual mind treatment. As we take a moment and allow all of this goodness that we have experienced here this morning, the beautiful voices, the smiles, the hugs, the connection, the wonderful working technology that allows us to connect, we allow all of it to fill us up so that we recognize without a shadow of a doubt the allness of life, the goodness of life. And as we become aware of it, we naturally realize that we are one with it. If there is no place where God is not, then God is in the center of who I am. And I know that this is the truth of myself, and that I know that this is the truth of every person in the sound of my voice. For we are only one. And so it is from this place of deep knowingness that I speak a blessing for all people. I speak a blessing for every person that has ever walked through these doors, the New Vision Center, for every person who's ever driven by Tatum Boulevard, for every person that has ever come across this name, has connected with the love that is given here so freely. And I uplift each and every person who has put their prayer requests into our prayer box or online. May they be well. And so it is with an overflowing heart and so much gratitude that I proclaim this good to making itself known in the world now. I know it, I feel it. And so we just let it be. We place this word into universal law. We just let it go. And together we anchor this truth as we say, and so it is. Amen.